my notes as well, actually. And so, first off, with like your tone, right? Taking a little bit more of a casual tone and approach will be very beneficial because we don't want to sound like too corporate, right? Because then I feel like we get lost in the weeds a little bit, even on LinkedIn. And we want people to get to know you, right? Not just the brand. And so I think you can take a little bit more of a casual approach with like how you do talk in everyday life, saying things which I don't know if you're comfortable, but like you said, like if your team sucks, this is what you need to do. Something like that, it grabs the attention and it doesn't feel like it's robotic. Yeah. So don't be afraid to be casual with it. And then as far as like the length, I was going to bring that up today as well, saying like not everything has to be a long post, right? I love the long post that you did, but even like maybe 2 days later, grab the headline from that same post and just do a couple bullet points under it. And that's a post right there, kind of like that tweet or even like Facebook style type of post, because we want it to, yes, we want our content to feel very intentional and structured, but we also want it to feel somewhat spontaneous, even though it's not, if that makes sense. From the outside looking in, we want it to feel like, oh, I'm just throwing my thoughts out there. So I think just having a good mix of that, different lengths. And plus two, we're still testing things out. So you might find, hey, these shorter posts are doing exponentially well versus my longer ones, or vice versa. Right now, we kind of just have to like throw everything at the wall and see what picks up traction, and also just the content that you end up really enjoying creating. So I think mixing those in would be really, really good. But it's good because you can still put it out there and you can still turn those posts into newsletters. We can't be afraid to reuse things that we've already created and already written, because the people who saw the post, they probably won't see the newsletter, and vice versa. I approach every platform, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, newsletter. I approach each one like it's a brand new audience. So don't be worried about that overlap. But I'm really excited about LinkedIn for you, because I think just the audience there and for like what you're offering, I think once we really get into the groove, you're going to start really seeing people reaching out, leads and things like that. And so one kind of plan I want us to put together is not only the content piece, but especially with LinkedIn, that kind of networking portion of it. And so I think what's going to help just bring some early attention to your page right now is going to be your engagement with other people's content. Because right now you're still, obviously, like your page is somewhat newer, there's not a whole lot of content on there. And so that organic reach is a little bit harder to capture. And so to just kind of tap into and going and like commenting on and leaving comments on people's posts. Because that's one thing I noticed that helped me a lot. Because you start to build those like little virtual friendships on LinkedIn. And then they'll start engaging with your content, which will help push you out, a little bit easier versus only trying to depend on the organic algorithm. The main thing is just trying to build those relationships kind of simultaneously as you're building your brand is going to be really beneficial. And I would even go as far as like, I don't know if you've ever heard of like a dream client list that some people put together. Like if there's a brand, if there's brands or clients, I would start engaging with them as well. Because if they're like kind of on your dream list, there's going to be other brands and professionals that, probably are following them as well. And so adding value to comments on those types of people's posts is also going to draw attraction to your brand. You're kind of leveraging the attention that they're already getting, so that's one thing that's been very helpful. And the good thing with LinkedIn, I feel like the content's a little, like the shelf life of the content's a little bit longer. And so I think like one post a day is suffice. Like you don't have to, unless you like just like, oh yeah, I want to get this out and do like the second post of the day. LinkedIn's a little bit different, where it's like, even if it was like 3 or 4 times a week, you can still see traction. But like once a day, and then maybe just taking like the rest of the time to engage and comment on other people's posts. One thing that I did want to talk about adding though, is just adding our personal touch a little bit more. And so with some of like our storytelling tactics, talking about projects that you've worked on or clients that you've worked with, like these like different concepts, right? So it's, for example, with the ones you're talking about, team building, maybe there's a personal example that you've gone through with building a team, or something that happened in the process of building a team, or a time that you've had to fire somebody, a time you had to hire somebody, different stories like that, to where we're getting to know you more versus only the brand. So that's the only thing that I wanted to kind of add in there, to have a really good mix, because we want about 20% of our content should be very like hey, this is my business. So very like more structured. And I think like that 80% should have that more personal touch to it. Yeah. Right. Because even say, for example, you go to a lunch meeting, right? Say you snap a picture of you or of your lunch or something. It's like, today I met with my client and I learned XYZ, or I met with my client and I realized they were struggling with this problem and you're probably struggling with it too. So here's 3 things that can help you build a team, to where it's a little bit more personal, a little bit more personalized. And again, it adds that authenticity, as well as that feeling of spontaneity in your content. Yeah. No, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. Because a part of like those personal touches, we're kind of doing social proof, saying like, yes, I'm very knowledgeable, and you can see that in my other posts, but I'm actually out here doing these things. So it adds to that social proof category with our different content map pillars, and doing it in an organic way, an authentic way that doesn't feel too like salesy. So I would take the same strategy that we're doing LinkedIn and just throwing that on Twitter, because you can do long form on Twitter.